Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show on ET. Now it's time for our Spend with TMS segment. The last couple of weeks, we've been receiving the news with respect to outage at some of the major banks in India. And when I say major, I am talking literally about India's largest PSU bank, SBI, and one of India's largest private banks, HDFC Bank. Outage at the data center, primary data center, led to the non-availability of HDFC Bank's transactions for almost about 12 to 13 odd hours at a minimum, if my memory serves me right. And then very recently, we had State Bank of India as well tweeting about an outage at its very popular YONO app, through which most of SBI customers conduct their transactions. Then, of course, we had the RBI as well coming into action, talking about how it's important for banks to have a proper digital framework in place, strengthening their IT infrastructure. So let's take forward this conversation. Where is India's digital system lacking as customers, as people who use, digital transactions very, very frequently? Should these outages worry you, in any manner? I have with me Ayushman Mishra of loanadda.com. Ayushman, hi, good evening. It's lovely having you back with us on The Money Show. So to start with, we have the RBI telling HDFC Bank that, look, you cannot issue any more new credit cards, and you should sort of put a pin on new digital launches and for a certain amount of time, perhaps until this entire problem has been resolved. Now, I know that you are an ardent fan of HDFC Bank's products. Firstly, is this something that current customers of HDFC Bank should in any manner worry about? And secondly, for those people who are new to the credit card market, would you advise them to wait for an HDFC Bank credit card, or do you have a second best or a third best that you would advocate?
See, first, Mubina, let me explain to you that what is the matter. I mean, what has happened with HDFC and what RBI said. So, in November 2018, December 2019, and 21st of November 2020, there have been 3 outages in HDFC. So, primarily at the data center. So, there was a power outage at the data center, due to which, there was a disruption. So, which RBI has said, and as now, the governor has also, clarified that RBI wants all banks to take digital lending and digital transactions very seriously. So, what has happened is you have to understand that when, a bank has 5.6 crore customers and 85 to 90% of the transactions are happening digitally, it's a sea change. So, there's a large volume of transactions that happen. So, in this case, a huge volume of transaction happened, and there was a outage, for, as you can consider that, when you're doing a lot of exercise, you can have some, muscle pull or injury, but you just got to be a little bit more careful and then, carry on. So my take on this is that, firstly, there is no other better transaction than, the primary first and second. So if you want to take a card, the first and second cards have to be the primary options. Okay, so first and second card. So first is HDFC and second is SBI. So both have had power outages. If other banks and NBFCs which are having transaction of credit cards, when they are not able to issue a lot of cards, or a lot of the transaction not happening digitally, as post pandemic, due to various reasons, the overall credit offtake from a lot of banks have been slow. But that's not been the case with a few banks, and once they have gone full-fledged, so now HDFC has something called a digital 2.0. So they want to increase their digital presence and ensure there is no let up or goof up. So I think when a bank is trying to expand itself, and when like the HDFC and SBI, and they are trying to manage their systems and process and technology, these are the places where you should go. You should go to where the longest queue is, rather than to somewhere else where the queue is very, very less.
Interesting take, really, Ayushman. So, what are the other parameters that you would look at today when you want to choose a debit card, a credit card, or for that matter, let's say a bank to bank with? And of course, this would be a relevant question for those for the more younger crowd, or for those individuals, maybe who are living in tier 2 towns and want to sort of get integrated into India's mainstream banking system, what would be the points you look at?
See, Mubina, the first thing you need to differentiate two things. One is the liability side banking and one is the asset side banking. So, okay, if to bank with, your question is, which bank to bank with. Now, today, as the RBI has, pointed out that, you need to be clear as to what your digitalization is. So when I see the largest, 5.6 crore customers and 85% of its bank is, digitalized, I see that, when you are having your credit card from somewhere, who's the largest issuer, if you keep there, your current account or your savings account there, that obviously makes a lot of sense. Because as I said, go to Pepsi Cola and, Coca-Cola in the largest queue rather than, a smaller line. So if you go to a, college fete, you go to where the maximum queue is, or that's a normal, tendency. And these people are by far the largest, issuers. So I think what younger customers can see is that one of the places where you can open an account digitally, which are very strong, is like an IDFC First Bank, because they give a very high rate on the savings. So suppose now our youngsters who are using credit cards or the first time new to banking, so they can go to a place like IDFC First or or an HDFC, which are very strong in their digital application. And you must differentiate that. Okay, if you want a credit card, then credit card you take who's the largest issuer, which is like an HDFC, or number 2 is an SBI. Whereas if you want to open, so you can actually differentiate. You should not keep all your eggs in one basket. So your debit card should be different and your credit card should be different. So in your wallet you should have more than one.
Keep a separate credit card and debit card. Go for those companies which have the longest queue or the largest demand. It's just some very simple tips. And of course, if you want to look for someone to bank with, then an IDFC First Bank gives one of the highest, interest rates. So that's something that you could you could consider as well. Ayushman, really a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you so much for joining in, and hope you have a very good evening. Well, with that, we are completely out of time on this episode of The Money Show. So we'll wrap it up. Many thanks for watching. Don't forget to connect with us by writing in on The Money Show at etnow.tv.